Hey, Scott, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in this gorgeous garden of yours, or forest, as Maria tells me it is.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's great to meet you as well.
Sure, thanks. So let's just get started. I want to tell the listener that we're standing in front of the Neos sculpture. And that's kind of what turned me on to speaking with you, because Maria contacted me, and she's the sculpture S. Is that what they call them in the art world?
Usually just a sculptor. Yeah.
Sculptor. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know. So the sculptor, and she contacted me because I had used a picture of it to do a little trailer. And the reason is because I just think it's so beautiful. I mean, I really, really do. And to me, even though she's looking down, this sculpture listener, if you haven't been here, she is kind of welcoming people to your sculpture forest.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a reason that Neos is at the entrance here. And not only is it a terrific sculpture, but it's very emotive in terms of communicating.
Yeah.
And it really draws people in to come up and explore around her. So great way to come to the park.
One of the things we're going to do, listener, is walk through the park. And we'll discuss the Neos sculpture in a little bit. And you're fortunate that you're also going to get to hear from the sculptor about Neos, if I'm saying that correctly.
Neos, yes.
Neos, right. All right, so Scott, let me ask you this. Who is Scott Price?
Well, let's see. In a very brief format, I'm originally from the East Coast, from Maryland, and when I graduated from college, I did a 12,000-mile motorcycle trip with my father, and when we did that, we actually came by Whidbey and came out here, and that always stuck in my mind. Worked on the East Coast for a little while, but it was like, this is where I want to live. I want to live out here. And finally, I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And I started looking for jobs out here and made the move. And then mostly worked in various tech companies, government, big companies, and small startups. And then I got into real estate, did some, and still doing some real estate investing, and live here in Coupeville with my wife and daughter who's in high school.
I had read a little bit about that, but as far as you being an art collector, besides being a real estate investor guru, I see you as an art collector besides the real estate investor guru. So how you display your collection is allowing all of us to walk through your open gallery. You see, understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is the forest. Every piece is a surprise to me when I come up upon it. So what has fueled your art passion?
Yeah, well, the overall idea started with actually preserving this habitat, this land. And then I started thinking about, how could I potentially share it with others? Thought about putting a trail in the property. And then the next phase was I had been to a number of sculpture gardens. I am interested in art and go to a lot of gardens and museums and things like that. And really put all three of those interests together, meaning preservation, sharing it with the community. And then at one point I said, could I personally create a public sculpture park? And the answer is yes. I now know. And so I started combining the three, because to me, outdoor sculpture is a great way to entice people or encourage people to get out in nature, and then it goes the other way around as well, because people who want to go for a walk, they are getting exposed to art. We look at it as this is art enhancing nature and nature enhancing art. That's the experience here.
So Scott, when I was doing some research on you, I saw that the Navy helped with this park, but they didn't go into a lot of detail. So I was just curious how they helped with it.
Yeah. So going back in time, when I bought the property in 2008, I was going to build my home here, and I decided to build elsewhere. So I was going to sell it because I had this really big mortgage on the property. Right. It was like I had to get rid of it.
It's a lot of land.
Yeah, exactly. So I started that process, and unfortunately everybody who wanted to buy it wanted to subdivide it and usually clear cut the trees and open up the view and all that kind of stuff. So I started working with the Whidbey Communal Land Trust, which is a terrific organization, and I've been on their board and I've been a member for a lot of years. And I started asking them to see if there any way that I could preserve the property. I don't need to build on it. I don't need its market value, anything like that, but I'd just like to preserve it. And so what they were able to do was essentially sell the development rights to the Navy. And why the Navy cares about that is we're under the flight path of OLF. And they have a program where if it's big enough and if there could be enough houses built here and all that kind of stuff, they actually have funds. And what that did was that was able to take care of the mortgage. Of course, I still had all the money that I put down, and it wasn't like they paid for everything, but at the same time, at least it got rid of my mortgage. And in return for that, there was a conservation easement put on the property, which I wanted to do anyhow, which basically in perpetuity always preserves this property as a forest and or a sculpture park. And one of the beneficiaries of that, so to speak, is the Navy. So it's a great program. It's just a win-win-win all around for everybody.
Who's in charge of maintaining it, though?
Maintaining the
park.
The park, well, that's me and my father, Ken Price. He's I could call him volunteer number one, and then we have a number of other volunteers. Some of them are the neighbors nearby who have been terrific. We have some other folks in Coupeville and around the island, and so it's a team effort. And
people can volunteer if they wanted to.
We need volunteers. So if anybody's interested, we do fun things outside of the work here. So we kind of get together outside and do things.
So how long did it take to get all of that in legalese? How long to get it permitted to do all of that?
Well, it was a complicated process because, of course, this is now essentially a public park and it's run by a nonprofit. So, getting from standard residential land to that, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. But we're here and it's all good. I mean, it took a couple years to get the underlying legal work in place. Then for about 5 years, I gradually worked on the concepts and design I wanted here. And I then worked with Island County on the permitting side, and they were very supportive. I mean, matter of fact, I remember at the end of one meeting when we had a whole bunch of the departments represented, and the one guy actually stayed after the meeting and he said, I wish we had more meetings like this, where it's, it's just, there's just a positive outcome for the community.
Everyone's in agreement. Excited about it.
So it was very nice.
So what's been the most rewarding moment in your journey so far?
I would say
you could pick one.
Exactly. There's certainly been many. I would say, at least as a group of not necessarily one event, but as a type of event or a type of thing, is all the positive feedback that I get in the local community about when, for instance, they have an out-of-town guest. I've heard from so many people who are in the local community, and they'll say,
"Just told you one."
They'll say, this is on their short list of where they bring their out-of-town guests, and that's just very gratifying to hear that people appreciate it. That we're now. People are coming to the island, and sometimes this is one of their prime destinations, and that's just very gratifying.
Well, when my parents were here and I brought them here, one of the things that we enjoyed is there were a few families here with their children, and the giggling and the running through the path, and then looking at a sculpture and hearing their voices. I mean, it was just so pleasant. It was so sweet, and of course, I didn't think about that when I first got here. But it just made the experience to hear delighted children Especially your, it's a dinosaur. What kind of dinosaur is it?
It's a T-Rex.
A T-Rex.
Yeah, a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
They see the T-Rexes and the monkey,
Yeah.
all those things. It's so sweet. Yes.
Yeah. And there's a lot of design principles here.
Yes.
And one of them is to encourage all age groups and people from all types of backgrounds to have an enjoyable experience. And that's one of the reasons that I have the themed trails, including the one we're on right now, Whidbey Way, which has things like the T-Rex. We have some really high quality art here, and it's a wide range. It's not just stuffy abstract stuff that nobody knows what it means. Kind of thing. One of
the things I learned is I thought all of these sculptures were permanent, but they're not. Not all of them are.
Yeah, well, we actually have 5 models on how the sculptures came here.
Right.
Some of them I purchased or the nonprofit purchased. Some of them are on long-term loan from the sculptors.
Right.
Some of them are outright donated by the sculptors.
Right.
Some of them are actually for sale. A few of them.
Yes.
If you go on the tour, it'll say that. And then some of them have been donated by a patron usually in memory of somebody. So we've got 5 different ways of how they all come here.
Yeah. So you've kind of answered this already, but how do you feel the park supports the community? I know it supports tourists and people who are coming over here. Yeah. How do you feel it supports the community itself?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I've seen is the ability of a place, an event, whatever, but in this case, a place and the experience here for people to have some joy, some, I would say almost a life-affirming kind of positive experience. It tends to break down barriers. And as far as from a community perspective, the thing that I see is both within a group who's visiting and also interactions between groups who are visiting is people from all different kinds of age, demographics, race, culture, all the, I'm sure different political views, all that kind of stuff. When they're trying to figure out what something means, or one person is helping another figure out the augmented reality app, or I know where Pegasus is. I can find it here. That kind of thing. It creates this positivity in the community that takes out all those differences, and and people can be themselves and be comfortable together. And I think that's a good thing to bring into the community.
So do you think that local culture influences any of the art you shoot?
Yeah, I'd say there's a couple aspects of that. One, it's not culture, but local nature certainly influences it.
Yes, local nature. Good.
Yeah, because for instance, on our nature nurture trail, anything there that is representative of either a plant or an animal is only going to be something that can be found on Whidbey. That's one of the criteria. Okay. And so we have a few examples of that, things like eagle and fungus and different things like that. Right. And, so there's that aspect, and then from the culture aspect, we have a number of local artists who are from Whidbey Island, which is great, and they have some of our most popular, meaning some of the most positive responses that I just generally hear are from some of our Whidbey Island sculptors, and there's that aspect, and then the other aspect is most of the sculptures here have a very natural material feel to them, even though they might be steel or something like that, but they have a natural feel that's meant to be here. And I think that's a Whidbey kind of thing, Yeah,
I think so too.
It's not like a Las Vegas sculpture show. Right. It's a different feel here.
What's the most surprising thing you've learned so far?
The biggest thing has been generosity. And what I mean by that is especially the artists and the volunteers, because they are what makes this possible. And the generosity of the artists to participate and put in their time, bring their art here, share it with the public, it's huge. It's what makes this an experience. And then the volunteers keep this going because it's definitely not a whole one and done kind of thing. It is a constant amount of work that's involved.
So did you get a lot of mentorship from other sculpture gardens around the nation? I do know that there's others that you really like.
None at all. and I don't mean that in a bad way or anything, but in other words, I didn't seek it out, but I did.
So then that leads me to, was there any advice you wish you had? Ask.
Yeah, and I'll just add that I certainly did a lot of research, but it wasn't direct mentorship. I went to sculpture gardens. I said, I really like this part, but not, I would like take the best of from various
you did your
ones.
homework.
Exactly. So there was that kind of mentorship, but not direct one-on-one person mentorship.
So I know I probably shouldn't ask this next one, but I'm going to, and you can say I'm not answering it. Do you have a favorite installation?
Yeah, that is the favorite child kind of question. And actually, because when I put together the collection of what's here, a big part of it is how they all fit together.
Right.
And what I mean by that is there are some sculptures that are great sculptures, but we already have some aspect of what we're trying to create here represented, or it doesn't fit well, or something like that. We may pass on it. And in other cases, we're looking for something very specific. And why I mention that is the answer to that question is, well, are you talking about some particular aspect of art? In other words, there's like all these categories, kind of like at the Oscars, and these
there can't
categories.
be one.
Exactly.
I get it.
I mean, for me personally, because I'm not one of the sculptors here, these are all other sculptors, the park is my sculpture.
Yes.
And so in some ways you could say maybe that's my favorite sculpture, because the 16 acres here and the park itself is what I've created, my contribution, and that would be my favorite. And then the individual sculptures, they're all great because they wouldn't be here otherwise.
So who would you say is the most influential person or something that's happened in your life that you feel really influenced you over the years that brought you to this?
Yeah. Well, as far as people, certainly family. My wife and daughter are amazing people, and also my father has been a huge reason for this park being successful. So when you add those two together, the combination of support and actually bringing things together so that this came to be, they're terrific, and it may not be even, direct. It may be like the year that this was created. I had been working on it for 7 years, but the year right before it opened, I was generally working about 70-hour weeks, 70-hour weeks all year long. And so, my wife and daughter had to keep everything else going.
Right.
And since then, my father's been very actively involved, as well as all the the other volunteers that I mentioned. So there's certainly that. And then in general, people who, people when I've, not necessarily an individual, but when I've heard stories of people who have a grand scheme, a grand plan, and it comes to fruition, that's always, it's kind of like when I said, because I certainly had never created a public sculpture park before.
Really? Never?
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like a hobby.
Yeah.
So, but put a lot of time and effort into it, and here it is.
Well, you can mark that off your bucket list.
That's right, exactly. I didn't even know it was on there, but it eventually got on there.
So let's talk about the island. What do you love most about living here, and what makes you an audacious islander?
Yeah, so my wife and I decided to move up here about, I'd say like 23 years ago when we first moved to the Seattle area. And, but we couldn't move here initially because of jobs. It just wasn't right. Some people do it, but I didn't want to be, 4 or 5 hour commutes round trip. It just didn't seem good for me. So, finally, we got to the point where we could do that, and and we moved here about 10, 11 years ago, and really the main things that attracted us were two parts: community and beauty.
Right.
And community was just about the people that were here. That people who are here generally want to be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, maybe folks, get assigned here at the base or something like that. But at the same time, in general, across the island, you're intentional on being here and also keeping it why you moved here. And what I mean by that is, preserving the beauty, preserving the history, things like that, and having nice people that really want to have those priorities. So the community was important, and then the beauty speaks for itself. I remember one time years ago, my wife and I took a big trip to Chile, and we were on a ferry going from one part of the country to another, and we're looking up at these beautiful mountains.
Wow.
And these kind of verdant green hillsides, and we both at the same time looked at each other and said, this is like home.
Yes.
We came to this world-class destination.
And we live in it.
Yeah, and it really made me appreciate that truly Whidbey Island is a world-class destination.
Yeah, I think so too. And when you were talking about your motorcycle trip and you came out this way across the country, it reminded me of the same thing with us. Is at one point when we lived in Beaverton, Oregon, we would come up here to the San Juan Islands area to go whale watching. And then we would go to Victoria when my boys were little, and never knowing that at one point in my life, I'm going to be living right down the road, because we've lived in Spokane and we've lived in Dallas and we lived in Houston, and now we're here. And at one point in our life, we were here, just like you were on your motorcycle. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of deja vu, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it plants a seed, and sometimes that seed grows. So.
Yeah. So, besides the sculpture garden, do you have any hidden gems or special spots you just love on Whidbey Island?
Yeah, one that I love, obviously I love forests and preserving habitat and trees, and my favorite is the Wilbert Trail in South Whidbey State Park. Okay. Because it's the only place really that is accessible and actually has true old growth trees. Because, basically this entire island starting in the 1800s was basically clear cut everywhere for timber, and except there's a pocket, and it's a really beautiful trail with some really majestic trees that are still there and still doing well.
Imagine if Oak Harbor had a place where music, theater, and creativity could thrive all year round. The Oak Harbor Creative Arts Foundation is exploring something big. A performing arts center and makers space to expand arts access, support local artists and youth, and strengthen our community. Right now, they're in the feasibility phase, building awareness and community support before any fundraising begins. One of the easiest ways to help is to add your name to their petition of support. No money asked, just show you believe in. Imagine Oak Harbor for all of Whidbey Island. Visit the website today and add your name. Creative communities don't just happen, they're imagined first, then built. Go to ohcaf.org to show you also. Imagine Oak Harbor.
So here's a question I like to ask everyone that I interview is, how do you hope the community as a whole, the whole Whidbey Island, evolves in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I really hope that we do smart growth. That's one thing, because I really hope that we retain the soul of what Whidbey Island is and why people are already here and why people visit here. And there's this huge push and pull between development and growth and people wanting to live here and things like that. But then if we're all subdivisions, that's not really what Whidbey is. And to me, part of the beauty of Whidbey is not just the parks and the beautiful shorelines and things like that, but it's actually the drives between those places. It has a good feel. I mean, when you drive up 525, most of the sides of the road are trees, which I love. You know, it's not rows and rows of subdivisions.
No, I didn't realize when the first couple of years I lived here, and we moved here during COVID, is all of these trees going up 525, that there's actually houses back there.
Yeah.
But you can't see them.
Exactly, because of buffers.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect. And then as far as hope, I hope that that over time, our demographics, especially from like Coupeville South, does not become just a retiree haven, and I hope that it does spread out to be young families and, basically something where there's ongoing diversity like that. And that's a battle because obviously it's hard to have certain jobs here and things like that. But at the same time, those would be the main two things, smart growth to keep the soul, and then having some more increasing breadth of our demographic diversity. Mm-hmm.
So has there been any lessons that the community has taught you?
Well, let's see. I would mostly point to how when there's something like this, what we've created here, the appreciation for it and how it becomes a part of the community if it seems to fit with the community and it provides a quality experience for people. So the communities taught me that, that even though you bring in something new, if you bring in something that people enjoy and fits well, yet is different, that can be a fine balance sometimes. That it's a really positive thing for everybody. So it's been a great learning experience, as that's happened.
So before we talk about how people can get here, where this is located and all that good stuff, let's talk about the Neo sculpture, because I did interview Maria as part of this interview. So why don't you tell the listener a little bit about how you came across this particular sculpture and wanting it and reaching out and being able to procure it?
Yeah, and actually the initial steps are a little bit fuzzy as far as in my memory, but I certainly remember after that because Marie and I connected, I believe, perhaps through the Pacific Northwest Sculptors group. That may, as a matter of fact, it was, yes.
Okay.
It's actually solidifying right now. It was through that group, and she got really interested in what we were doing, and then we just started an offline conversation, so to speak, because we met at a meeting, and it became a lot more involved beyond that. She's been amazing to work with. She's a terrific artist, and really happy to have an EOS right at the entrance, and the fact that she would bring her bronze here, and it was definitely something I wanted to feature prominently. And I get a lot of comments from people who come and visit, and they're impacted positively by an EOS, because there's a lot of interpretation you can give it. And different people have different interpretations that usually are relevant to them and where they're at in life.
When I was doing my research and just looking at some of the hashtags, not only for the sculpture part, but for her, it's amazing how many young women have taken their picture next to her.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing. And to hear Marie talk about it, it's just a tearjerker. Like you said.
Yeah, it's quite a story.
Yeah. So I'm so happy that you came across her and put that here.
Yeah. Likewise. Yeah.
So tell the listener, for those who may not have come here or lived off island and haven't been here, where the sculpture forest is located. Yeah,
so we are 1.3 miles from downtown Coupeville. So when you go into Coupeville, where most people who maybe are not local would probably go, the little downtown on the water river section that has the wharf and everything. You just go on 9th Street, which turns into Parker Road, and head on out. We're on the left, 678 Parker Road.
Okay. Also, is it ever closed, or is it always open?
It is open every day of the year from 8 a.m. until sunset or 7 p.m., whichever occurs earlier.
Okay. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. For those who haven't been here, talk about the AR experience. Is that what it's called, AR?
Yes. Augmented reality. Yeah. Our version of augmented reality is actually the very first time it's been done in the entire world, right here in Coupeville, right here on Whidbey. And we actually took real world physical sculptures, and through a process that I worked with a startup company based out of California, they developed a way to transform real world sculptures into augmented reality and put it on a pedestal, just like it was a pedestal in a sculpture park.
Okay.
And it's very detailed. You have an app. We have free Wi-Fi in our parking lot so that you can download it quickly. And then you can experience an augmented reality sculpture that you can get right up to. You can see it in detail. You can walk around it on all sides. You can take your photo with it, even though it's not actually there. And I'll let you know there's actually kind of some advance info. Not many people know of this. We're now working on a new version that will also be in addition to what you already see right now, where we're going to bring augmented reality into the forest, and we're going to actually add augmented reality experience to sculptures, the physical sculptures that are here, a select few that are here out in the sculpture forest itself. So it'll be, the first one is an augmented reality sculpture by itself. This one will be augmented reality moving experience on top of the physical sculpture that's in front of you.
Wow, that's impressive. So Whidbey Island, you've just proved that Whidbey Island is progressive.
That's right. Yeah.
And you brought it here. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you not only for the interview, but also for bringing such a beautiful place for everybody. This is a free park. And so everybody can come here. And that's been a really important principle here, and that's one of the reasons that so many families like coming here, because it's not a cost issue, especially if they have budget constraints. So it's open to everybody. So that really encourages. There's no barrier, to come. Barriers.
And hopefully, when they leave, they have a even more positive impression of both art and nature, and they take that out with them into the rest of the world. So it's worth making it free and continuing to do that. And, we have a nonprofit here, a 501c3, and basically the optional donations that we get, that all just goes to maintaining the park. We're all volunteers, not even any paid staff here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, great. Do you have anything else you want the listener to know upcoming, or you just told us about the AR?
Yeah, it changes over time. From time to time, new sculptures come in, and eventually things will be rotated out. And different times of year is actually a different experience in terms of light and weather, and how you experience the forest and the vegetation and things like that. So if you came in the summer, come in the winter, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's true. Well, thank you so much, Scott.
Yeah, well, thank you. And thank you for having the show. I think it's a great thing for Whidbey.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Listening back to my conversation with Scott, I think what struck me most is that his reinvention wasn't about simply deciding to move to the island because they loved it. It started with a piece of property, a problem he couldn't quite accept, and a willingness to look at it differently. And somewhere along the way, a career in commercial real estate became a very different kind of work, protecting a piece of Whidbey, bringing art into the forest, and creating a place where people can experience both. I love that about reinvention. Sometimes we don't reinvent ourselves by walking away from who we are. We take everything we've learned and use it to build something we never imagined before. And in Scott's case, that somehow is now part of Whidbey Island. Thanks for joining me for another story in Reinventions on Local Whidbey Podcast. I'm Maxie, and I'll see you next time.